This is happiness, to be everything at once. Be unblinded, be unlearned, be unbridled and unburned.
Hey guys, welcome back to a brand new episode of Mood Prep. My name is Dave Nixon, and today we're going to finish up with this week's idea, concept, topic, subject, which is death. I've spent a whole 50 minutes talking about it as best I could. And hey, actually, a lot of you guys, I had a few of you guys reach out and give me some feedback on it, and I really appreciate that. I'm glad you guys are getting something out of the subject that is quite challenging to talk about. However, it's something that, well, we can't really avoid now, can we? So I'm going to finish it off now. What's interesting is from the book The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck by Mr. Mark Manson. If you haven't read it, it's a decent read. It wasn't groundbreaking for me, but it was definitely beneficial. And for another reason, you'll see why. He's probably done a bit of NLP training, neuro-linguistic programming, by some of the stuff he spoke about, but also very straightforward. But I think it's worth getting onto either reading this book, but just read the article online with the same title, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, and you can get a bit of a gist of what's going on. So I'm going to share a couple of things from this book, two main things. But what was really interesting for me, what's something that I just will never fucking forget, is I remember reading this chapter at the end of this, and it was 2 years ago. And it was on a Sunday, and I'm like, oh, yeah, no, I'll just keep reading. I'll just finish off the last chapter, right? And the last chapter is called "And Then You Die." Now, this was on a Sunday, and it was on a Sunday afternoon. And on the Tuesday, I found out that Sunday afternoon is when Alex passed, and that's why I'll never forget reading this, and the fact that I read this around, like, within the hour of his accident is just phenomenal. It's uncanny. And yeah, I'm going to take two comments from here, and we're going to pull it apart a little bit and see where we can finish up, hey? So here, "And Then You Die," chapter 9, it's on page 190. "Seek the truth for yourself, and I will meet you there." That was the last thing Josh ever said to me, right? I'm leaving it with that for now, as in I'm not going to continue on from the rest of the chapter, but there's a reason why I want to just read that out, was seek the truth, and I'll meet you there, right? Seek the truth for yourself, and I'll meet you there. Think about how powerful that is for a moment. It's like, seek your truth, and then I'll be there. Like, I'll be waiting for you. It's cool, man. Like, you don't need to seek someone else's truth. Because when we go seek our own truth, it doesn't matter who's around us, because the right people will always be around us. We can often get caught up, concerned or worried about what the people around us will think if we decide to go after what's most important to us, not realizing that if they're upset, then there's a good chance that, hypothetically, maybe it's because they didn't go after what they wanted to go after, and they're just jealous. Why do you think you're allowed to do that and I couldn't? It's like, there's so many times that you see this kind of narrative repeated again and again and again, but you have no other objective in life but to seek your truth, right? Not the truth, so to speak. That's another conversation. But the reason why I say your truth is because your truth is going to be different to the next person's. And this is where people go, there's two sides to a story, right? His side and her side. It's like, no. There's three sides. There's his side, her side, and the truth. Because both of their truths are filtered through all of the psychological components and filters that we all have. And this is the biggest work that I do with people, is being able to see those filters, see them for what they are, so you can see the situation for what it's not. And that's powerful, because then now we get to respond to reality. It reminds me of a Rumi quote that goes, "Out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there." And I believe Rumi's talking about the field of truth. It's like, what's good and bad. We can sit here in judgment of what's good, what's bad, but we know that we've done some bad things that led to some good lessons. And we've done some good things, and too much good leads to a lot of bad. It's like all of you are relating to this in some way or another, and I'm sure of it. But the reality is that when we seek our truth, then we encourage the people around us to seek theirs. And that's the power of it, and that's why it's so crucial that we're able to step into what's important to us. And when we do that, we can really, truly go after what our life is, and not get caught up in the trees, and seeing, like, the trees and getting so worried about this tree. It's like, fuck, You have your whole life ahead of you waiting for you to unravel and unfold, yet you're just staring back at this old tree from 10 years ago and thinking that you have to be able to bring that tree with you everywhere you go. It's like, you can just let it go, let it fucking stay where it was. It's time to move on. That's the power of it all. Now, there is another thing here. Let me just find it. And it's on page 206. And it says, death is the only thing we can know with any certainty, and as such, it must be the compass by which we orient all of our other values and decisions. It is the correct answer to all of the questions we should ask but never do. It's like, I repeated it all the time, all the way through these podcasts this week. It's like understanding death and knowing that that's a certainty gives us this spectrum of understanding how, if we give ourselves permission, we can truly live, right? And the power of all of this is being able to see what does living mean to us. A lot of people don't decide what's important to them. They just take on values of older people in their life, their caretakers. Like, well, that's what's important. It's like, have you questioned that? Or you just got told that authority was always correct? Because I can assure you, if you look back in history, there was a fucking shit ton of times authority wasn't correct. Right? It's not to say that you shouldn't listen to other people or listen to caretakers or whatever, but it's like, you got to be able to, at some point, live your own life. You got to be able to make your own decisions. Hey, if you want to. Because it's easy to blame somebody else for a shit life if you just accepted the fact that it was always their input and you never got input and you were a victim to that. But once again, that's up to you whether you want to live that life and live that lie, really. But either way. So there's your 2 points from the book that I found really quite fascinating and in-depth, and it comes back to the whole conversation this week around understanding that those who are most aware of death get to live the most, and in that life is the present moment. And this is where, I mean, I find it that presence and all that kind of stuff can get real corny and real weird, but the reality is that, like, there's actually nothing else happening in the world besides right now. Right? And we can plan for the future. I'm not saying you shouldn't plan. I'm saying if you're going to sacrifice the now consistently for the future all the time, then you'll never get to the future. Ever. Because when you get there, you'll be sacrificing that now for the future. And think about that. Think about when we do that all day. It's like, fuck, I can't wait till lunchtime. Fuck, I can't wait till afternoon tea. Cannot wait to knock off from work. Oh, I can't wait to get off this treadmill and go home into my slippers. And then we get in, all we did all day was just fucking basically dream about the next thing. And never got there. And then, oh, the year's gone so quick. It's like, yeah. All you can remember is a couple of fucking times you got pissed in your slippers. It's recognizing that when we, in this space, we get to choose what life means to us, rather than having people choose what life means to them for us, right? And this is what's really crucial, is that life doesn't happen to us. Life happens for us, and we get to experience that, and we get to unravel that, and we get to participate in life, because that's really what it comes down to. It's like, how are you participating in life? Are you passive? Are you active? Are you dormant? How are you choosing to show up? That's a really important question. And hey, it's up for you to answer. It's not for me to answer. There's power in that, and there's power in choice. And the other thing about it is that our culture today confuses great attention and great success, assuming them to be the same thing, but they're just not. They're just not. You've got to be able to define what success is for you and what it means to you. And when you can do that, you can really start to actually move towards the most important thing for you, right? There's a quote by a guy named Jared Grossman, and it goes, "Success is the magnitude of the beneficial footprint you leave upon society." It's like, fuck, yes, that's mine. I'm with that, 100%. Now, guys, I'm going to finish up there. Thank you so much for tuning in, as always. And if you found this podcast beneficial, it would mean the world to me if you would pass it on to someone else that you think would also find it beneficial. If you haven't already, jump on Mood Prep Online on Facebook. It's a free group. You can jump in there, and the book club is starting up again as of next month, December. And more conversations. And we're going to be starting to do some live podcasts in there as well, where you could ask some Q&As and I can answer them on here. Otherwise, that's it for now. And I'm going to sign off a little bit different tonight. But I'll go back to normal. Don't worry, I'll be kicking more dick. That sounds weird to say out loud, but you understand what I mean as of next week. But for now, seek your truth. I'll meet you out in the field. Ciao.
be unblinded, be unlearned, be unbridled and unburned.